Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Michelle Johnson, the event marketing specialist here at ProcessMaker. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We're very excited to be sharing with you some new features that will let you do more with ProcessMaker platform. Feel free to ask questions in the Q&A section, and we will be answering them at the end. Today's speakers are Jose Maldonado, Senior Director of Product, Ryan Cooley, Engineering Manager, and Mauricio Veliz, Engineering Director. So over to you, Jose.
Thank you, Michelle, and hello, everyone. Can you guys hear me? Am I coming through? All right. I'm going to assume it
Yes.
is. Just cut me short. Awesome. So hello, everyone. I'm Jose Maldonado. I'm our head of product here at ProcessMaker. I am thrilled to spend some time with you today, showcasing some of our latest innovations fresh out of our labs. Now, it's always exciting to share updates on our flagship products, but today is especially meaningful because our summer release is packed with high impact differentiators I hope you will all find valuable. Now, we've been spending months understanding how our customers are solving their business challenges with our tools and also leading in industry research around current and next gen trends in automation and AI. Now, surely we've all been hearing about AI and we can agree on its transformative potential, but it can be hard to distill into real world applications for an organization and businesses. They know they should be doing something, but figuring out what actionable strategies exactly can be daunting. And so that's why I think you'll appreciate how starting summer, our platform makes it easy and accessible to leverage AI to kickstart your automation projects. Now, as ever, our goal is to be the fastest end-to-end solution with the best user experience. And that means driving a careful balance between being the easiest to use, but also solving for increasingly rich use cases. So our summer release is a powerful milestone in that journey, packing a lot of capabilities. So let's pull open the red curtain and dive right in. I'm very happy to introduce our engineering leads who are responsible for these great features. So let's have them walk us through them before we dive into a closer look. So without further ado, let me bring in, oh, there we go, Ryan and Mauricio. Ryan?
Thank you so much, Jose. I am very excited to be here with you all today to talk about our summer 2023 release. You can see we have a lot of groundbreaking new features to share with you. More than ever before, this is our biggest release, so we're really excited about it. Let's jump right in. Our first feature is a game changer in process automation. Imagine saving hours of work by leveraging AI-built process models. With our innovative solution, creating new processes is fast and easy and suitable for all users, no matter your background or experience. Just describe the process you need in natural language. By the way, it works in any language, and our AI will generate a model for you. If it's not quite right on the first try, that's fine. You can easily modify your description and even view all previous versions in the History tab. It's that simple and flexible. Speaking of AI, let's take a look at our next groundbreaking feature. ProcessMaker is a global company, and we know that one vital aspect of today's globalized world is language. With our AI process translation, you can translate an entire process in just one go. You're not limited to one language. You can provide multiple languages in just a few clicks. Simply select the language you need and let the AI handle the translation for every single screen element from start to finish. If you prefer, you can provide manual translations as well. And the best part is that users will automatically see their local language thanks to our intuitive system that recognizes user profiles and browser settings. Next up, let's talk about PM blocks. This is a brand new cornerstone of flexibility in your process automation. Say goodbye to long waits for custom solutions. With PM blocks, you can construct and share intricate parts of your organization's processes as a single cohesive element. Now, what sets PM blocks apart? Well, it's their compatibility with external connectors and integrations, which allows seamless communication with third-party tools and systems. Like templates, you can use ready-made PM blocks from ProcessMaker or craft your own to complete complex steps. Each block offers custom configuration and admin settings. This is just the start of a whole new ecosystem designed to make process design faster, smarter, and fully integrated. Next up, let's focus on a fresh feature that's all about capturing the moment. This is our new photo video capture capability. Not only can you continue to upload files as before, but now you can directly snap photos or record videos using the device's camera. This works great on desktop and mobile contexts. Simply add this control to your screens and you have a smooth and hassle-free experience for your end users. No more juggling multiple tools to upload visual content. You can even preview the photos and videos and retake them as needed. And the cherry on top is that this connects with our ProcessMaker IDP solution to intelligently process your uploads. This will bring us a sleek, unified solution that takes your document processing to the next level. Next up, we'll explore our enhanced process modeler. This is a fully redesigned space where efficiency meets sleek design. Imagine an intuitive interface with tons of room to breathe, offering you more space to design processes without distractions. Enjoy a fresh, contemporary feel where you can view the menus you need and collapse them when you don't. And if you want quick access to your favorites, just pin them for your convenience. It's a tailored workspace designed smartly for you, so you can focus on what matters most, which is, of course, creating the brilliant processes. Finally, for me, let's talk about our mobile screen designer. This is the new tool that brings optimization right to your process designer's fingertips. If you want to create the best design for various screen sizes, you can preview them right in Screen Builder, ensuring a tailored fit for every single device. You can also manage what's visible to mobile and desktop users based on their device type. It's all about delivering a smooth, user-friendly experience across platforms. With our mobile screen designer, you're in control, crafting an end-user experience that's both dynamic and efficient. With that said, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Mauricio to share the rest of our awesome new features.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Well, I will start with Process Analytic Dashboard. Power continuous improvement with more information from ProcessMaker's data lake, data and visualization of overall activity, performance of individual processes, KPIs, and OKRs. In addition, user will have the possibility to create their own reports based on the information of their request. Next, please, Jose. User activity logging, approach audit with one less worry. Record user activity to maintain ISO IEC 27001 compliance. This functionality is important to keep track of the most important action performed by user in ProcessMaker. For example, if a user deleted a process, the admin user knows who is responsible for that action. Next feature, please. Request tracking map. Know exactly where a request is in the process and where it can go next. As we see in the image, we can see an extra information like a status, completed by, time started, and time completed. Now the user can review the request, will have relevant information. Chat announcement, news and support right where you need it. This functionality will be quite useful to be able to guide the user through the platform. Next, Jose, please. Okay, thank you. Improve error handling, stay informed, recovery quickly, and eliminate future error. Now, in case there is an error in any script or data connector, the administrator will have the opportunity to correct the script or data connector and run it again. Next, please, Jose. And the last one is under hood improvements. We did improvements in Naira, that is our engine, and Safe Search. We made big improvements to our engine that will allow us to be more scalable and greater performant. Now, Jose will do a demo presenting all the great features on summer 2023.
Thank you, Ryan and Maui, for that rundown. As you all see, it's a lot to cover. There's a number of very interesting features with this release. So let's dive right in because there's a lot that we want to get through. Let's see how much of those we can knock off during this session. So just punching here my credentials into a fresh instance. And all right. So at first glance, it's a regular ProcessMaker instance. It's quite new, so there's not much going on. I do want to highlight that down here. We have our new bottom right. We have a new chat assistant. So here we can ask any sorts of questions that you'd expect to find answers for over our documentation or our user guide. So how do I start a request? And this will be ever present in your interface. So wherever you are, if you just need a reminder of how to find something out or figure something out, this is a good first stop. And then it's trying to produce a response. And you also notice that it's not just finding kind of the right place to where to find this. You know, there's a specific documentation article for this, but it'll try to summarize and synthesize the content for you so you don't necessarily need to follow the link and leave the application if you just want a quick response. All right, so that's the chat assistant. Let's switch real quick into the designer mode so we can get a sense of a few things that are going on, which are pretty exciting. So first I want to call out some quick improvements into our process modeler, as we were mentioned. So I'm just going to go open any basic process here, just so that we get to the canvas. All right, so here we're seeing another feature, which is the product tours. And this is an opportunity for us to walk visitors and users through a series of activities, calling out what we want them to focus on and so on. So this is also useful to just ramp up your user adoption if you want to figure out how things work. I am going to skip the product tour so we can talk a little bit about what's going on. So this is our new and clean process modeler. You can see it's very nice and devoid of much bells and whistles so that you can focus on your work. And the two kind of main differences from our previous versions is that now we have a collapsible object menu over here, and you'll find it with this plus sign. And so from here, of course, if I want to add anything to my models, I just click and pull them out. And then I can tuck that away. And of course, all your usual objects will be in here. Now, new to this version, we also have the opportunity to pin these objects into our shortcut bar at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and pin a start event, a task, and a gateway. And you'll notice that these objects will remain here. Now, when I tuck my object menu, you'll notice that these objects remain, so I can keep adding from them. Let's say a script task, I can keep adding from them to my design. So that's pretty nifty, because then we can create versions of this modeler approach that are specific to our users with those objects that are most common, that we work with the most, that we want to have them at our fingertips. If we click on any of these, you'll notice over here we have our properties rail at the right. So this is where we would configure them as you'll use for as you're used to, sorry. And whatever you've got selected will be configured on that, and we can tuck that away as well. So it's pretty clean, and it makes a joy to just manipulating your process maps. What's also cool is that now, of course, we've got a number of options to multi-select and move around. So if I want to take this group, or I just want to go ahead and delete those. And then maybe now that we've got these in place, I want to clean this up a bit. So we can select these, we can plop them somewhere over here, and then just align these pretty quickly. Maybe space them out. So you can see how easy it is to manipulate your maps and keep them nice and tidy. So this is our new modeler. I'm sure you guys are going to love it. Now, to actually go through some actual processes, let's start in a fresh model with some of our new features. All right, so here on the Start Process menu, or start the new process button, we've got a couple of options. Of course, you can build your own, and that'll lead us to just a blank canvas for you to start mapping away. We introduced templates last time, so you'll always find an increasing list of templates that you can check out. And of course, if you go to our website, and we have a gallery with even more. But of course, the big piece that we want to share with you all is our text-based, natural language-based process generation. So let's play with this, because it's pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Generate from Text, and this is our new AI modeler, where we can give a text description over here to the right, to the left, and have a process generated for us. And what's very interesting about this is that it helps us when you're kind of staring at a blank screen, you're not really sure you want to get started. So it really kickstarts that effort of just starting with your processes. So, and you'll notice down here, we're kind of recommending a couple of text or sentences or instructions if you need a little some set of ideas of what you want to show in here. So what does this expect? Well, you can certainly be very specific about what you want. So I could tell it, create a process that starts with a form task then has a script task, then ends. Let's just see what that does. And I'm going to click generate. And you'll notice here down below it says generating. We give it a few seconds. And then here the preview window is going to render what it understands what that we're trying to do. Okay, sure enough, fill out a form and run a script. So that's pretty basic stuff, but we're just getting started. Now, in the same notion, maybe you'd like to just create a list that details, for students too, and then I'm going to start, request a, I don't know, exam exemption, and then that is sent to review by the professor. Then or rather, if approved, sends a system grade update, and if rejected, creates an email notification, and then before ending, creates a PDF confirmation of the request. So let's see what this looks like. So I'm going to regenerate. And you notice this version is a combination of a business requirement. So I'm speaking in terms of students and professors, but also I'm trying to be very technical about the steps. So I'm also kind of influencing how I expect this process to happen. And you can see here how interestingly it's trying to understand our intent. So start an exam exemption request, and you can see that the tasks are fill out the exam exemption, then the next task is going to be to review, then we have a gateway, and if it's approved, then we're going to update the system grade and send a request confirmation. And notice that system grade is a script task, and if not approved, then a rejected notification, which is an email task before the request confirmation. So I think it captured our intent very accurately. And we could just continue adding to this. So for instance, I can come in here and say, and generate this in Spanish, because of course AI models love to be multilingual. They really have no concept of that. And we'll talk a little bit about process translation in a few seconds, but let's give this a run to see how this works. Takes a few seconds. All right, so notice now it's the same model, but it's entirely in Spanish. Completar formulario, revisar solicitud. So pretty accurate. And if I try to use this model, notice it's recommending me a name and a description. This is basically going to just push this into a process session, modeling session, so I can just continue as usual, fleshing it out. We're going to do that in a second, but first I want to show you a couple more things. Notice how we've got a history tab where we can review different versions of the process. Maybe we are not so ready to do the Spanish version just yet, so we want to roll back, and you can see it's highlighting what it's adding and what it's removing from each iteration. So that's pretty cool in of itself. Now, what's interesting is we don't necessarily need to be extremely specific about what we're trying to achieve. So here I'm trying to give it step by step, but we can just as well give it no context and have the system try to anticipate what we're trying to do. So maybe we want to create a process to file a credit card dispute. So I'm not really instructing or informing or calling out the tasks or steps of how to approach this. I'm just declaring the problem and letting the AI try to figure this out for me. And as always, we can render different versions and with the history, toggle between them to see which one works best. So notice now it's trying to tell me, well, your process is a credit card dispute. You'll start by gathering information, then you'll review the information, and if it's valid, you'll investigate and resolve, and if not, then you just will end. So this is a very meaningful starting point. So you don't start from scratch when you're trying to build a library of processes or get a process executed and automated. Remember, this is just the first step, and this will be entirely automated. Before we walk away, and move on, I do want to show a couple more things about our AI modeler. Notice that, of course, here we're speaking in terms of business domain, which is higher education, but we don't need to have any context of what we're trying to do. It's not like we're informing this with any library of hours or any knowledge domain. So we're not limited to the types of processes that we can automate. For that matter, I'm just going to ask it to create a plan for world domination, because why not? And I'm not going to give it any steps. And I just love to play. I could spend all day on this, and I know we should move on, but I just want to show kind of the examples of how the AI is thinking in terms of processes, and it can render them as models that we can modify and tweak. So notice, start domination plan, gather resources, recruit henchmen, build secret layer, infiltrate governments, create chaos, establish new world order. Seems pretty legit. How about create a process to bake sourdough bread? I don't even know if that's the right way to spell that, but let's see how it handles some poorly structured and grammatically incorrect text. Now, the point trying to make is we don't have any kind of we don't have any preconceived notion of a business domain or a library of what it is to, to achieve world domination or what it is to bake bread. So the AI can really be, flex its muscles in terms of trying to figure out what we're trying to do. All right, let's bring it back a little bit to reality. I do want to create a process for you all, and then we can take it. Let's say that we want to process um, I want a process recommends recommends travel destinations based on provided preferences. Let's see that. All right, let's give it a few secs. And all right, so start the recommendation request, provide travel references, analyze preferences, generate recommendations, and present recommendations. So I think this is pretty accurate. Now, I also want to say that, create a process that recommends travel. So why don't we say that suggests travel destinations based on a recommendation engine that relies on provided references. So what I'm suggesting is will be automating the recommendations instead of just having a user punch them in. See if it picks up on that a subtlety and replaces the user task. All right, so not really. Well, if we tell it it's an automated based on an automated recommendation engine. All right, let's try that one last time. Then we'll move on. I mean, at this point, it's irrelevant. You guys get it. Um, I just love playing with this so much, and I'm sure you guys will too. So hopefully we can put it in the hands of you all soon. Oh, sure enough, now it's looking a little better. The recommendation is an actual script. So let's try this. Stop right now. So I'm going to go ahead and use the model. Note how it's recommending travel destination suggestion process, suggest travel destinations. Okay, so good enough. I'm just going to add myself as a manager here and go ahead and kickstart. So now that we're in here, now we have a fully fledged modeler session with our new process. I'm just going to go ahead and push this a little back. And, as we saw, we can just tidy it up a little bit. Perfect. So now what I want to do is start playing with this. So the first thing we can do is we can publish this. We didn't do anything at all. We just generated. We can right away start running this process. So let's try that. I'm going to start a new request, and here it is. Here's our travel destination process. I'm going to open it in a new tab, so see what that looks like. And here's another of our product tours. It's highlighting some of the new features, in particular the overview tab. We'll take a look at that in a second. Okay, so the first task is to provide preferences. And so the process is legitimately executing. Now, of course, we didn't add any screen to this process, but that's not stopping us from running it. We can, just click through it, which also makes the AI modeler and modeler in general a great way to map out wireframes of your flows and get a sense of how they will execute based on different criteria. So it's pretty useful. Now the process now goes into review recommendations. If we open the process, let's take a look at that overview tab. This is one of those new features. You can see how it's been executed. In green, we saw the provide references, recommend destinations also executed, even if it didn't have any actual script or automation piece assigned to it. As a placeholder, it executed perfectly. And that's why right now we are at the review recommendation stage. So right off the bat, our process is fully functional, but of course we just need to start adding content and context to each of these tasks so it works a little better. So let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and let me just come back to our process map. All right, so let's start putting some context in. So I already have prepared a few building blocks to make this a little more fun. So whenever I want to demo data connectors, meaning the capability of consuming external RESTful web services and making that data part of a process, um, I always rely on the trusty Star Wars API because it's an open API, so it's easy to play with and it has a very understandable endpoint. So for instance, if I have an endpoint here and we ask for planets, let me try that real quick. We'll get a sense of planets, and here we are. We've got 60 planets, Tatooine, and they each have a couple of options. You can see here their gravity, their terrain. So why don't we create a process that allows us to select planets from this universe to visit, but we want to, have a recommendation engine work for us. So we want to suggest planets of the specific terrains that we prefer. So let's try to put that together. So the first thing that we're going to need is a data connector that actually consumes these endpoints and bring them into our process. So luckily I have such a data connector because I kind of prep these pieces so that we don't take too long. So let me just unplug this real quick. Let's open the object menu. Down over here we have our good trusty data connectors, and let's just plug it into our process. All right, and let's tuck this away. Now the data connector, let's take a look at that. So let's expand its properties. And I have the Star Wars planets lined up here. And I have a resource of get all planets lined up here as well. If for the techie folks, let's just take a sneak peek into the data connector. And this is our standard data connector configuration. A few features that I'll just call out real quick, but we don't necessarily need to play with right now, is that we can configure timeout, retry attempts, retry wait times, which is pretty useful when you're tinkering with data connectors, because what happens if one of these services is slow or it's down? So we can really tweak how our process wants to treat that. For now, I'm just going to go and test it real quick. If we hit send, we get, sure enough, the same result that we saw on that web page, was basically a list of planets. Notice that all these planets are in an object called results. So the only real configuration that we need back in our process is I want to map that response. So in response mapping, I'm going to tell it, well, what you call results, I want to set it on a new variable called planets. That's just to keep it compatible with some screens that we have already lined up down the line. All right. Other than that, this should be ready to go. So that's going to produce a list of planets for us to choose our travel destinations. However, we don't want to stop there, because what we really want to do is get a list of all the terrains in each planet, because that's what you should really be providing as a preference. Like, what of these terrains are your preference? Now, unfortunately, this data connector doesn't have a way to filter these results based on terrain, so we're going to have to get a little creative. And this example is very common because we often when we're playing with external systems, we find out that we need to manipulate the data in several ways in order to get what we're really looking for. So I think this is a very fair example of what we're trying to do. So what this means is we're going to have to add a script that takes those planets and carves out the terrains from the list, and that will help us to then filter by those terrains. Okay, so let's make some room again. Let's scoot all these, and then let's unplug this, and let's add a new script task. There it is. Let's just plug it back in. Perfect. And surely I have already lined up a couple of scripts. So here's a get terrains. So that's going to do all our nonsense. We don't need to go into the specifics. This is a standard PHP script that takes that array, carves out the terrains. All right, so let's start putting some names in here. So this is get all planets, and then this script is going to be get terrains. All right, so now that we've got the planets and the terrains, we can actually have a user task that's going to present those terrains for us to select. So I also have a screen for us that is going to help us. So here we have terrains. All right, and let's open it here. And this allows me to kind of take a short detour to talk a little bit about what's going on with the screen builder. Now here are the product tours again. It's going to try and do a quick tour of some of the new elements that we are going to be launching. I'm going to go ahead and dismiss this. Just so we can take a look at it real quick. So first off, this is a standard screen. We can preview it. Sure enough, once we've got this actually populated from those tasks that proceed, we'll see some stuff in here. All right. And this is also a great opportunity for me to demo something else, which is our new mobile preview. And this allows you to really craft your mobile experience. So if I toggle preview, notice it shows us how it's going to render on a mobile screen. And in fact, it's showing that we're not doing a very good job in ensuring a proper mobile experience. Since my logo here is kind of hard-coded, then it's not really responsive, resizing itself. So it's not looking very good. So the good news is that we can tweak that real quick. So let's do that real quick so I can show you. So there are several ways to do this, but one of the most interesting innovations for this release is that for every element in the screen builder, over here in the advanced tab, we added new device visibilities, and you can toggle what you want to show for desktop or for mobile. So just for this example, let's say that, I'm going to go ahead and clone this entire blob. And there are several ways to do it, but maybe I'm not going to clone it. Let me just pull these things in here. Let me just pull this thing up here. And then I'm going to, on your phone. And then, all right. And then what I want to do is this entire section, I want to hide it if on a mobile, and instead I want to show it. I want to show just this one. All right. So now if we revisit this and we preview on mobile, notice how it just renders a little differently. And even the messaging is changing. So, with some creativity, you can really go crazy in what kind of mobile interfaces you're creating and how you can curate the experience of your mobile visitors. And we'll be seeing a little bit of that when we take a look at a little more rich screens down the line. So let me just remove these. And one thing I want to show is, as we're here, let me show you the photo video control real quick. So we've always used to have, we still have a file upload, and this allows you to just, upload any document into your process. And then we realized that a big use case for these was to have these documents captured right then and there from your screen. So that way you're not uploading a file, but you're actually taking a picture with your device's camera. Extremely useful for selfies or for taking pictures of documents or driver's licenses. So now it's pretty simple. You just drag the photo video control. You can configure it and decide if you want to use, wait, where's my photo video control? There we are. You can configure it if you want to control a photo or a video. And of course, since we launched earlier this year our intelligent doc processing, you can even send the photo or the capture directly to the doc processing engine to scan your document and flesh for some text. And now when we preview our screen, you'll notice, all right, so here I am. Um, and of course, hey, here I am. Perfect. All right. So that's the photo control. Let me just remove that. And let's just run it to see how it works so far. So I'm gonna save this, whatever changes we did to this, and let's make sure that it's tied to our, I'm just gonna go ahead and close this. Let's make sure that it's tied to our process. All right, since we're starting to add tasks in between, I'm going to add the interstitial check. So display the next task assigned. This will ensure that the process when at first launch is going to run straight into that task. So let's check that out. Travel destination. Let's open it in a new tab. And it's fetching that first task. So what's happening is behind the screens, it went through the data connector and the script. So here it is. Select your desired terrains, and sure enough, these are our terrains. So these, let me just open the data connector real quick. If we check these out here, terrain desert, let's find another one, grassland mountains. This is what's populating in here. Now these are of course sorted alphabetically, but desert, grasslands, mountains, awesome. So if a planet has a terrain, it's been offered here. Now, this also is a great place for me to talk about another feature, which is process translations, AI-powered translations. Well, what if we want to offer this travel experience multilingual? There are certainly a lot of languages across the galaxy, and they'll all want to travel. But we already have our screens created, and we don't want to really go back and tinker with all that text. But of course, this screen is actually pretty bland on text. So let's go back to the screen. Let me look for this screen real quick. And here it is. Let's edit this screen. All right, and let's add some text. So let's just keep working on it. So for instance, we can add a helper text to this field. We're here. Let's say we will find planets to visit, or not find, we will recommend planets to visit based on your selection. You can select multiple options. All right. So this is a standard helper text, and notice how we're just informing our users how to use this field. And now, in terms of just adding lots of text, let's try something else, which is also an opportunity for me to show some of the new Power User Bootstrap components. So I'm going to add a Bootstrap wrapper, and this basically allows us to include a number of additional screen components, alerts, cards, and so on. So I'm going to add a collapsible section, and it's asking for a page with content. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new page, and let's call it just the info page. And here I'm going to create something with a lot of text. So let me just add a rich text box in here. And so I'm lazy, so I just went earlier today to ChatGPT, and I asked for a text for a travel service called Star Travels, and it's providing all this, and I don't even know if it's accurate or not, but gets the job done. So let me copy this. Let's come back to our screen, and let's just paste this. All right, seems fine enough. We can further customize this a little bit because it's a little bland, but you guys get the idea. Maybe that's too much. All right. And of course, we can just further tweak this, but you guys get the idea. All right. So this is a lot of text that explains, how our travel service works, and it's actually fairly accurate, from the deserts of Tatooine to the forests of Endor. Awesome. So now this is all on our info page. So I'm going to go ahead and in our Bootstrap wrapper, I'm going to tell it that's the page that I want to show, and I'm going to add a nice label and call it about us. All right, and then when I preview, of course, my design has the CSS to style the buttons, and okay, hey, we've got now lots of text to translate. All right, so let's try this out. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this. I'm going to go ahead and publish this. And what we're going to do is let's go back to the process. Well, let's go back to the um, process list. And here's our travel destination. I'm going to come in here and configure this process. And here's the new translations tab. And we don't have any translations yet, so I'm going to go ahead and create a new translation. And we can translate to a number of languages. I'm going to add Spanish, just so I personally understand if it's working, and translate the process. So what it's going to do is going to run through all our screens, and it's going to try to find every language string and offer a translated recommendation. So let's give it a few seconds to work. Now, of course, depending on the size of our process, because you can see it's done on a process level, it can take a while. The good news is we can leave here, do something else, and we'll get a notification whenever it's done. And it should never take more than a few minutes. So let's just give it a second or two. Translation is done. You can see it's now listed under our translation tab. You can see we got the notification that the process was translated, and we can even then come in here and we can edit it, and this will tell us all the different text that was found, and we can then tweak it if we want to, curate a very specific translation. And also notice how it's pretty clever, and that some of these fields are contained within rich text, which has HTML styling, like text align center, and so those tags are not translated because, of course, that would break the HTML. So it's pretty clever. Let's go ahead, and now that this is translated, the way how this works is that if I'm a logged user, all I need to do is switch my preference, my language of preference. I'm going to switch to Spanish, and then it will automatically pick the translated version of a screen if that screen has a translation for that language. So now that I did that, what this means is if I come back to the task that we have open, here's the first run, the last run for the travel destination to provide preferences. Let's check it out. And here you can see it's fully in Spanish. Pick your desired terrains. Now, of course, the gate to the galaxy is part of our logo. It's in the image, so didn't get translated. But notice how it's translating not just the field, labels, but all, the inside the text. It's the select. It's translating our helper text, and of course, all our nice little explanation of the service has also been translated. All right, so just for clarity of our UI, let me come back and restore our language. But that's process translations. All right, so let's go back to our process. Let's see. All right, here's our travel destination. All right, so nice. All right, so we've got all the planets, we got all the terrains, we're providing preferences. Now we want to run the preferences. Now we've got the terrain, we just basically want to build a recommendation page that includes only the planets that match the terrains that you're choosing. So what we need to do is to tell it what to get. So there are a couple of different ways to do this. So of course, what I did is just take the easy way out and created a script that's going to filter out from the array all the planets that don't match the terrain. So let me just add a new script in here. And here it is, filter planets. So that one is performing that. And then I just for sake of complexity, unneeded complexity, I want to throw in a decision table here because if you're on to me, what I'm trying to simulate here is a process that's kind of simple on the face of it, but has a lot of building blocks underneath. That's why I'm trying to use scripts. I'm trying to use data connectors, and now I want to use a decision table. Sorry, and well, basically what I did is I want to provide a little more context to the travel recommendation. So I created a simple decision table. Let me just show it to you real quick. Here's our planet descriptions. And all I did was, based on different planet names, I have a table that produces the thumbnail image and a description paragraph. And this is just pulled off of this Star Wars service. So you can see the data bank. If I feed it a planet called Coruscant, it's going to give me like this image and a description text. So I pull this information and I plopped it all into a decision table. That way, in our response page, in our recommendation page, we can add a nice image and a text for each of these. So let's put that together real quick. All we need to do is, let me just name this script task, filter planets, and then let's add a decision task. All right, and let's configure our decision task. So we'll string it together. And our decision task is basically fetch descriptions. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add that decision table. So here's our decision table. All right. Now for this to work, we have to do a couple of things. First off, this is going to be fetching one description for each planet, but we're going to receive a number of planets that are going to match that description. So what we really need to do is we're going to have to loop this task once for every planet that's available. So what we need to do is add a loop activity, and we can do this in parallel or in sequence. So in parallel is fine. And the variable that holds this planet is called filtered planets. That's what our script proceeding is returning. All right, so and then we're going to save this as descriptions. All right, so this is basically looping. It's exploding this decision table into several instances of it, one for each planet, because of course every planet's going to have a different description and picture. All right, so that's a lot. And then we can finally see the recommendations. Now, the good news is I also have a screen for this, so we don't have to check it out. Okay, so now this is starting to look pretty robust. So let me scoot these guys over here. Let me scoot these guys over here, and let me bring this in here. All right, and this is also a great opportunity for us to retry that kind of those cleanup features that are pretty nifty. All right. Yeah, this is starting to look a little better. All right. And then these guys. All right. So let's recap. We start the process, and it's going to fetch all the planets from the Star Wars API data connector. Then it's running it through a cleaning script that's fetching out all the terrains for those planets, and it's going to present those terrains in a list for me to provide my preference of what terrains I prefer. Based on my selection, it's going to run a script that filters out planets that don't meet that criteria. And then it's going to run a decision table to fetch descriptions and images for each pre-selected planet, and then it's going to present it to me nicely so I can pick where I want to travel. All right, so let's save this and let's try this one last time. I'm going to just also configure this interstitial here real quick. So, all right, let's take it for a spin. So as always, start new request, and as always, I'm going to run it on a new tab. All right, so it's executing underneath. It's running the data connector, and if we go to the overview tab, we can see the in-flight process. All right, let's say we want to visit cityscapes, deserts, and I don't know, mountains. No, well, sure, mountain ranges. Next. Okay. So now this task might take a while because I don't know how many planets match those terrains. And for each of those, it's spinning up a new decision table. But here it is. And sure enough, we found these amazing destinations based on your criteria. So Tatooine, and you can see the descriptions that we were using there. See you can the keen-eyed and you can recognize the thumbnail and the text that we pulled from over here. All right. And so it's pretty cool. Now, what I also want to show now that we're in this screen is remember how we could display different things based on the device? Well, if I happen to be looking this page on a mobile device, let me just scoot it down here. You'll notice, there we go, that we can get a completely different experience on a mobile device. We're not just, of course, reformatting every piece of content, but we can also be intentional about what we want to display. So even the logo itself is a different one. The messaging is a different one. And we're selecting some of the information that we want to display, but not all. So it's a great way for us to really curate those experiences. All right, so we've done a lot, but I still have one couple of things that I want to show you, and that's the reason why we went through putting this kind of complicated process together. So let's go back here to our map, and and the point I want to make is it's a simple process, but you can see how in the real world you start to stumble with use cases that combine a number of things like data connectors and scripts and decision tables, and it can get tricky to configure. So that's why new in this release, we're introducing an amazing feature called PM blocks, which basically allow us to aggregate and bundle reusable building blocks, if you will, that automate these steps. They hide and tuck all of these nuts and bolts under the rug, so you don't, as a process designer, you don't need to tinker with them, and it makes for a much cleaner experience in putting them together and using them across your processes. So let's take a look at that real quick. So basically what I want to do is create a Star Wars travel block that has a couple of options. One will automate getting planets and getting terrains, and the other option will automate it filtering and fetching the descriptions. So the way that we're going to do this is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to save this as a PM block. And I'm going to call it my Star Wars travel block. And, planet travel recommendations. And I don't know, a nice spaceship or star here. Okay, that's fine. All right, and let's publish it. All right, so our PM block was created. We'll find it here in the listing of PM blocks, but I want to show you a couple of things for the PM block configuration, which are the panel and the environment variables. So environment variables is if our block requires maybe API tokens or credentials that we're going to use every time we use the block, then this is the place to add them. I'm not going to do that right now, but I do want to create the panel. The panel is what's going to show on the modeler whenever I'm using my block. So basically, I want to show, of course, the name of the block, and then I want to ask for a variable that's collecting the action, like what do we want to show? So I'm going to call this my block action, and let's just put here select action. So this, remember, this shows up in the modeler. It's basically a way of saying, well, what do you want to do? And I'm going to create two options. The first option is I want to get the terrains. So this is going to be the first part. Actually, let me just call it get terrains, yeah, because that's the value of the content is get terrains. And the other option is going to be the get planets. So this is going to be the second part, get planets. All right, and we can even add some commentary to instruct our designers how they should use this. So we could say select get terrains to fetch planets and list terrains for selection, and then select get planets to filter based on previous terrain selection. Now that maybe doesn't make any sense, but this is just an example. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. Perfect. And now if we go back to our, well, of course, now we need to configure those actions. So I'm going to go ahead and edit the block. And here, of course, we've got this entire thing. So this is kind of the whole process. We're not, our block is not doing this. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and delete the screens because I don't want the screens on my block. What I really want are these two kind of paths. And so what I want to do, scoot this over here, is let's just add a gateway that's basically evaluating for that panel variable. And this will all make sense once we use this block in another process. Let me just clean this up real quick. So we plop this in here, we plop this in here. And so this is going to be just the process that's happening every time we're going to use this block. So basically this would be what action, and this path is going to be get all planets. And then we just evaluate for that block, which is going to be on the parent. All right, and my block action, and it's going to be get planets. All right, I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to come over here, and then this is going to be the get terrains. All right, and all right. And so just to recap, so that you're all hopefully following me, we've just created a new block that has just the bits and pieces required to pull information, fetch information, drive information, and separated it in its own thing. So of course, this Star Wars travel block has two actions or two use cases. One is to get the terrains, and it's running our data connector, running our script, and the other one is getting the planet, so it's running that filtering and it's fetching the decision table. Now we go ahead and can save this block. And now what does this all mean? Now when we come back to our process, let's come back to our process. Here's our travel destination process. All right, so this is it's a pretty convoluted process. Well, now guess what? We don't need any of these. We don't need any of these. So now think about this process. Suddenly it's a much cleaner process. It starts with providing your preferences and it ends with reviewing your recommendations. But now surely we need to run those actions. Where are they? Well, now if we expand our object menu, we have an entirely new section called PM blocks. There are already a couple of PM blocks in here, and we'll always be developing more. That's one of the benefits, is that it makes it super easy to distribute and pass around. And here's our new Star Wars travel block. So I'm just going to add it. And it's a building block like any other in our process map. So let's just plop it in here. And now when we select it, it's showing that panel configuration. Okay, so what action do you want to use? Do you want to get terrains or you want to get planets? Well, we want to get the terrains. And then we just make it a part of our process. Now we know, you and I know, we're in the in crowd, we're in the know. We know, I'm just going to go ahead and clone this one, that what's going on underneath, right? This thing is driving scripts and data connectors and decision tables and so many goodies. But we don't need to expose that to our designers. We want them to have a very clean experience, so that they just put together their nice processes. I always do this. I never give it enough space. This one is going to be get planets. And then that's pretty much it. Once this process is underway, it will behave identical to what we just did, but notice how it's a much cleaner design. And of course, we can always go back to our PM block, add additional paths, add additional richness. Maybe our API changed and we need to update it. We can tweak it and maintain, but this process here stays nice and clean. So let's run this one last time. I'm going to go ahead and save this. as always, let's run the request in a new screen. And it's running. All right. This works as expected. Now let's do deserts and forests. It's fetching. All right, and here we are, desert, forest, perfect. Now if we go to our request information, let's take a last look at our overview page. And sure enough, we can see how it flowed, but even the process map is that much easier to understand because now we have nice little PM blocks here, and as everything we can get a quick look of, how much time did it spend running, but it's a very much more succinct information piece. So that is PM blocks. That's a lot that we've wanted to get through, and I'd love to have time to show more, but that's our demo for today. I hope you're excited about everything that we've seen.
Thank you so much, Jose. That was a lot of information, but I know everybody is just as excited as we are about all the features. So we'll go ahead and open the floor to Q&A. I know we're running a little bit over today. Mauricio, thank you for answering a few of those questions. Here's one. Is there a possibility to have a team at remote locations work on the same process and designer at the same time, especially for, I guess, complete processes?
Well, I love that question because it sounds like it was teed up by one of our colleagues, because that's one of the big headliner features that we're putting together for fall, which is the collaborative modeler that allows multiple designers in multiple locations to work on the same process map. So happy to have you, Kwame, play with this in the months to come.
All right, next up we have, do you know when this functionality will be available for Lucy and Workflow customers?
Great question. We will be coordinating with Solution to make sure that, as always, all of these features cascade back to you guys, and very excited to put it in your hands. Can't throw dates right at you, but we'll be sure to follow up.
Perfect. Thanks, Jose. Can we have a recording in our respective emails?
Of this presentation?
I believe that's what they're talking about. Yes, I'll be sending out a recording, the recording of today's session tomorrow. This question is, will these slides be shared with attendees? Jose, if you want to send those to me, I can definitely link it with the recording.
Absolutely.
All right. All right, just to confirm, did you say the overview gives the time spent on a particular task?
Yes, it highlights when it started and when it ended.
Perfect. And yep, here goes another request to share the recording. Yes, we will definitely be sharing the recording with everybody. All right. Well, if anybody has any other questions, feel free to email them to marketing@processmaker.com. I think that's it for today. Well, that's a wrap, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us. On behalf of myself and my ProcessMaker team, thank you for attending today. We're super excited, obviously, to get through. We hope to see you in November for our fall release. So thanks so much again, and have a great day, everybody.